How important and significant a discovery is this?
Well, it's very rare to find any of these tombs of the kings of Egypt, and it's been known for a long time, obviously, that this tomb still remained to be discovered. And so this represents a significant missing piece to the history of archaeology in the period of the New Kingdom. That's second half of the second millennium BC.
We're seeing pictures of the entrance now. How was it found?
Well, there must have been some geophysical prospecting done to identify the entrance. Certainly, there's no real details have been announced about that, but there are usually some clues around where these tombs are located. Quarrying of the rock, for example, the rock face would show archaeologists that somebody had actually chipped away the rock face to carve a tomb underneath. So these sorts of clues would be the kinds of things that one would look for, and evidently there must have been some of these for the archaeologists to be digging in that spot. I mean, this is a vast area that's not actually in the Valley of the Kings. It's in a valley to the west of the Valley of the Kings. So it's a great discovery, and congratulations to the team.
So who was King Thutmose? How much is known about it?
Well, he's a bit of a shadowy figure because he didn't reign for very long. It's thought that he reigned for 3 years. Some scholars claim he reigned for 13, which is a relatively short period of time. But he was the son of Thutmose I, one of the great kings of what we call the New Kingdom from 3,500 years ago. He was one of his sons. He married his half-sister, Hatshepsut, who became a great queen of Egypt following his death. And in fact, she had herself crowned pharaoh and is one of the most famous kings of that era. So he fits in between these two pillars of the history of Egypt from 3,500 years ago, as I said, with a relatively minor reign from what we can tell, with only two major events occurring. He had a campaign in Nubia, that is the region of modern Sudan, fighting the locals, in effect, most probably for control of the gold mines. But also he had a campaign in the Sinai against the desert Bedouin there. So we don't really know a great deal about him, except that he also died very young, probably around age 30.
Right. And why has it been so long since the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb, very famous of course, to the finding of this one?
Well, there are still some tombs that haven't been discovered, some of these royal tombs, and a couple of them, Ramses VIII, Amenhotep I, again we're talking 3,500 years ago. So to find this is certainly a major discovery, but it's disappointing that so little was left. If one looks at the pictures, there's a little bit of painted plaster with some with a scene on the ceiling.
His body wasn't inside.
His body wasn't in the, but his body was actually discovered in the late 19th century amid a cache of royal mummies that was very close to Hatshepsut's famous temple. And there's a bit of a story to that as well, that the Egyptian priests around 3,000 years ago removed many of the mummies of the kings from the Valley of the Kings to protect them from tomb robbing. And so again, extensive tomb robbing had resulted in great deprivation in the valley. And so the priests removed these bodies, including that of Thutmose II. So they must have known where the tomb was. And he was placed in this secret tomb, which wasn't discovered until the 1880s. And now all the royal mummies are in the National Museum of Egyptian Culture in Cairo.